I'm Sharon Howell with Memory Savers. Today we're at St. Leonard's and we are participating in their wellness program. And this session is part of the smoking cessation part of that program. And we're talking with Debra Stewart. Hello, Debra.
Hi.
My first question for you is, why did you start smoking?
I was at a time in my life where I felt I was in survival mode. I was working 3 jobs, going to school, had recently become divorced and had a small child. And I felt in a panic most of the time. And all my friends that smoked always talked about how much it calmed them. And so that's why I started smoking.
Calming sounding well enticing right there.
Yeah.
I would imagine. You really didn't have a spare moment to yourself. How many cigarettes and how often were you smoking?
For about 10 years, I smoked probably a pack to a pack and a half a day.
And it kept on calming you and making you feel better?
No, it really didn't. I mean, there were times I'd get chest pains, there were times I felt short of breath. Never really felt healthy when I was smoking.
So you knew something negative was going on inside your body?
Right.
So why did you decide to quit?
Well, I started to cut back at that time my daughter was born, and at that time more information was out about how smoking was dangerous, especially smoking around children. So I never smoked in the house, never smoked around my son once that information became available and I actually understood it. But I would smoke on the way to work. I would smoke anytime I was alone. I would go out for walks and smoke. My smoking overall reduced. I could smoke at work, but not by a whole lot. So I started to actually reduce the smoking at that time. And then when the children got old enough to realize how bad smoking was, they nagged me to death. I never, if they smelled it on me, they knew what I was up to. So I cut back even a little bit more, but I still was having, at least maybe 4 cigarettes a day. So I was preparing to test for my 3rd degree black belt test, and when I was a senior red belt, I had tore my ACL. And I had a terrible time recreating the strength in my legs and my knees. And no matter what I did, 600 kicks a day, no matter what I did, I could not get that same strength back. And so as I was training for my 3rd degree black belt, it became real important for me to find out why. And I researched information about the knee, about the structure, and about what that particular surgery did, the ACL replacement, and nothing really seemed to fit. And then one day I came across information about how smoking can interfere with muscle development and function. And so that's why I quit. So
that's a very different story than most of the people.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It is. I had to analyze it. Yeah.
But that's an interesting perspective. So how did you go about quitting?
I went cold turkey, and it was difficult. It wasn't, I couldn't work out more than I was because I was already in intensive training. So working off that nervous energy or the addiction, the craving wouldn't help. But again, I kind of did a self-analysis, and during my height of my craving, I could feel my chest tighten and my breathing pick up. And so what I started to do was breathing exercises to try to calm the breath a little bit, take a little bit deeper breaths until the craving went away, and that actually worked for me.
That's great.
Yeah. And then over time, it's been over 7 years since I quit, and I can't stand to be around smoke or to smell it. Well, I don't have any cravings at all.
You don't have any cravings. Wow,
yeah,
that is impressive.
It's different, yeah. I gave the
That's almost a gift.
Yeah, it is. I gave the process of quitting smoking so much thought and analysis. At one point during trying to quit smoking, I actually chewed the gum, and I listened to a smoking cessation tape over and over. And none of those things were all that effective, obviously, but it was at that moment where I realized there wasn't going to be a jump kick at all if I didn't let the smoking go, you know. So once I quit smoking, then I saw a noticeable change in my body and my muscle development.
Wow. Yeah, given where you were headed, that's pretty major.
Mm-hmm.
Very major.
Yeah. I
You
know
were
it's
leaving something bad behind for something wonderful coming at you.
right. Yeah, and it truly was a gift.
Yeah, very definitely.
Yeah.
How long ago has it been since you quit?
About 7.5 years. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't think about ever thinking I have a need to breathe, to take that cigarette. In fact, if I feel myself become tense, it's the breath that I rely on to calm me.
It's almost a form of meditation.
A little bit, and it's meditation and movement because you're always, because of the job demands or the work or home, you're always doing something, so you really don't have time just to sit down. So it's a moving meditation.
And you keep going all the time, which helps because you never let yourself sit down long enough to let that stress develop to that point.
Mm-hmm.
You just keep, I don't know, you just keep going all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
You know, I think we tell ourselves stories or lies, if you will. And some of these things my dad smoked his whole life, but he still lived to full life expectancy for his age and his gender. But his last few years were very difficult and related to illnesses that were created by smoking. But he always thought it would never happen to him. And he never saw himself as dying young, which he didn't. And for me, I never thought of the illnesses that might accompany smoking. It was more living in the moment, you know. And then when I tried to quit smoking, it was like, well, I'll cut back a half a pack here, and I won't smoke this one, and I'm doing so much better, you know. And something stressful would happen, and I'd fall back into my pattern. I just think we have to be really honest with ourselves and honest with what we're doing to our bodies and the people around us. And just don't let yourself off the hook, you know, because it is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.